Hello everyone, it's Chelsey and Dusty. So you might hear a little purring. Welcome back to the part of the podcast where I go full Scorpio rising with a mic and a pile of receipts. This is your July 2025 news update. It's just me today, so I apologize. But I will warn you right now, it's not going to be light today. We're talking about human rights violations in real time, school districts being held hostage, scientific research gutted midstream, and a swamp-built concentration camp so cruel it flooded within 48 hours of opening. So let's start there. Alligator Alcatraz, or as I so lovingly refer to it, Alligator Auschwitz. Because that's what it is. A sprawling migrant detention camp thrown together in 8 days by Trump's contractors in the middle of the Everglades, just before hurricane season. Thousands of people are being crammed into FEMA tents, surrounded by barbed wire, exposed to the elements with no proper plumbing, no storm protections, and no transparency. Built on federal land, funded by Trump megadonors, and coordinated by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. This place opened July 1st and it flooded by July 2nd. And that is not a metaphor. That is a war crime waiting to be formalized. And while that was happening, guess what else they were doing? Stealing education funding. On July 11th, Representative Terri Sewell of Alabama, District 7, led 150 House Democrats in demanding that the Trump administration release $7 billion in congressionally appropriated education funding that they are illegally withholding. This includes money for after-school programs, teacher training, and adult education, funds that were supposed to hit states on July 1st like they do every year. Instead, the schools were told with less than 24 hours notice that the money was not coming. Sewell's letter to Education Secretary Linda McMahon, the one that my 5-year-old daughter could out-trivia any day, and OMB Director Russell Vogt, it's Russell Vogt, not that I care, highlighted the chaos this caused in districts across the country, including Alabama, where schools are missing out on nearly $90 million. That's 13.4% of their K-12 federal education funding gone. Same story in Texas, Florida, Missouri, Mississippi, and Arkansas. These aren't just blue districts getting punished. This is a broad attack on public schools. Time to sabotage the school year. In addition to the $7 billion freeze, we're seeing direct consequences in specific districts. In Alabama alone, $89.9 million is on the line. Texas school districts are sounding alarms about federal Title I disruptions, delays in special education reimbursements, and stalled workforce grants. Florida's Hillsborough County reported staff layoffs and delayed ESE programming due to uncertainty. And in Arkansas, rural districts that rely heavily on federal aid are cutting summer programming and delaying hiring. Meanwhile, over in Washington State, Representative Marilyn Strickland, District 10, and members of the state delegation slammed the Department of Education for failing to release ESSA formula funding, which supports everything from after-school programs to English learner instruction. They called the surprise pause disruptive and unacceptable, especially as school districts were already planning their fall budgets. And let's not forget Medicaid and Medicare fraudster, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who is now pushing a bill to let the state override regional accreditation agencies for colleges. His move would allow private, politically aligned entities to approve programs, even if those programs don't meet federal academic standards. It's a pipeline to turn public colleges into ideological echo chambers. All right, then we have the absolute gutting of public health infrastructure. According to a July 10th report from WBUR, UMass Chan Medical School is facing a $42 million shortfall for the just ended fiscal year, and a projected $94 million hole for fiscal year 2026. This is not speculation. These are approved NIH grants that were marked fundable, but blocked in distribution. Pediatric brain cancer studies are frozen. Doctoral offers rescinded. Layoffs, hiring freezes, and a potential brain drain on a national level. Trump's budget proposal for the next fiscal year includes an $18 billion cut to the NIH, or 40% of its budget. And the justification? The NIH has broken the trust of the American people with wasteful spending and dangerous ideologies. This is straight from the Project 2025 playbook. Dismantle the state, defund the truth, and punish science that doesn't kneel to ideology. And if you thought that was enough anti-science chaos for one episode, nope. HHS is reportedly downplaying a nationwide spike in measles cases. According to sources within the CDC who have flagged concerns about delayed outbreak notifications, suppressed data, and politically motivated messaging. Pediatricians in at least 4 states have reported clusters, but public alerts have been inconsistent or non-existent. It's public health sabotage. July 10th also gave us a brutal reminder that tariffs aren't just line items. They are policy violence, and forgive me, because we're headed to Massachusetts in this story. While I'm relatively northern by birth, I'm not Massachusetts northern, and I've only recently learned how to say Worcestershire sauce. In Winchendon, Massachusetts, the Montechusett Veterans Outreach Center was set to build 44 units of veteran housing. They raised the money, secured the land, and even broke ground. Then came the Trump funding freezes and rising material costs from his latest wave of tariffs. The result? A $2 million shortfall that nearly killed the entire project. HUD funding was frozen midstream. Construction prices spiked. Veterans were left couch surfing, if they were lucky, while the state scrambled to fill the gap. It took desperate negotiations and a state rescue effort to keep it alive, with construction now pushed to 2027. On top of that, we've also had a threat to tariff Canada an extra 35%. And although I think for the past 10 to 13 years, we've had a trade surplus with Brazil, apparently they didn't treat us well enough in the past, and I think we're spiking tariffs up to like 50%. So while I do believe that they are trying to crash and spike the stock market to make money, they're also just punishing people for no reason. Well, no real reason other than ego. So let's circle back to Florida, because we've had a lot happen with Alligator Alcatraz. And if you take nothing else from this episode, take this. We have an actual concentration camp on American soil in 2025. They're calling it a migrant processing center, but we've seen the blueprints. It's tents, on a floodplain, with no insulation, no climate controls, no due process. A moat. Yeah, Hitler might not have done Jim Crow, mass enslavement, or federalizing a gang to capture runaway enslaved people, but he did do the moat first. And guess what? No press access either. Nearly 5,000 people, mostly asylum seekers, will be held there. It was built with zero public oversight on stolen native land, and it flooded on its second day open. There's no food, 1 meal a day with maggots in it, as far as we've been told. No infrastructure, no humanity. We are watching a fascist regime normalize mass detention using disaster capitalism and propaganda press releases, and they're already calling for more of these facilities. Etsy has a ton of Alligator Alcatraz merch on their website, which is disgusting. This is not about illegal immigration. It's about creating a legal black hole for whoever they want to detain. Moms, kids, pregnant women, survivors of violence, all hidden behind buzzwords like efficiency, border security, and temporary housing. Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency is overseeing it. GOP donors funded it. DHS signed off on it. And not one Republican has spoken out against it. Not even after the flood. According to one whistleblower with CBP, water levels rose above ankle height inside several tents before detainees were evacuated to plastic chairs under a nearby highway overpass. Eyewitnesses say portable toilets overflowed, soaking the tents in human waste. A volunteer medic who was on site said children had trench foot within 24 hours, and that the site had no pediatric supplies, just iodine wipes and gauze. Former ICE contractor Luis R., his actual name withheld, posted anonymously that many of the people held were not given legal intake or contact with attorneys. They had no records of half the people's charges. One woman was 6 months pregnant and hadn't eaten in 30 hours. They wrote her ID number on duct tape and stuck it to her shirt. One father, detained with his teenage daughter, described being forced to sleep on a drenched cot as lightning struck nearby trees. There was no warning, no evacuation plan, nothing. They told us to sit still and pray. It didn't hit us. A CBP agent leaked internal chat logs that described the site as a total cluster and confirmed that initial supply shipments were rerouted or delayed due to flooding. They knew it would flood. Everyone knew. The only ones surprised were the ones in charge, and even they didn't care. Human rights monitors have been denied access. Detainees report sleeping on wet cots with no change of clothes, no AC, and no running water for the first 48 hours. Local Everglades restoration advocates warn the lands were structurally unsound and historically flooded in heavy rains. No one listened. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Florida, District 25, visited the site and described it as a disgraceful, dangerous failure of leadership and humanity. She has since called for an emergency congressional investigation. And before we get to the next part, there's been a big change. So while Jeffrey Epstein was, of course, arrested, tried, and, dare I say, murdered during Trump's presidency, with ongoing investigations, documents sealed during Biden's terms, they are now saying that there are no files, that Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested for trafficking children to nobody, that there are no clients. That's insane. Trump is telling his base to just forget about it and to move on because they're not going to do anything about it. While I would like to add in there that Democrats as a whole were pushing for the release of the Epstein files during COVID, because one, we didn't have anything else to do, but two, also, like, it's gross, and we want everybody arrested and tried for it. But on top of all of that, and being told they don't exist anymore, to what files? To Obama and Hillary Clinton wrote them. Now we're sitting at a really weird spot where they're going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. So we'll see what happens with that, but I think there might be an uprising at that point. I'm not entirely sure, but Threads and X and the other one, Truth Social, have been going insane. And while I luckily have only had to see screenshots of 2 of those because I rarely will get on them, it's not pretty. So, all right, let's get back on track. Because if I don't have words in front of me, my brain freezes, as we just saw. All right, so we don't need to sit here and continue to act like everything is normal and it's a coincidence. Every segment of this episode, from the detention camps to the school sabotage, it's all tied together by one singular thing: Project 2025. This is a 920-page plan to gut democracy and rebuild the federal government in the image of Christian nationalism and corporate loyalty. It's written by the Heritage Foundation, signed by dozens of former Trump officials, and backed by people who want to dismantle not just the government bureaucracy, but the idea of a pluralistic society altogether. Project 2025 calls for eliminating the Department of Education entirely. It pushes for mass deportations, the politicization of the DOJ, the shutdown of public broadcasting, and the creation of a Schedule F classification so Trump can fire tens of thousands of career civil servants and replace them with loyalists. And now we're watching it happen in real time. They're choking public schools by withholding funding. They're slashing NIH research. They're building legal black sites in national parks. They're selling off land to corporate donors, defunding labor protections, and threatening the LGBTQ+ rights under the guise of parental authority. This is not a theory. This is the operating manual for what's happening and what's coming. So that's it for the solo update today. Don't let the news part fool you. This is not just something to absorb. It's something to act on. Whether it's showing up at your local school board, organizing town halls, or calling your reps, or flooding social media with facts, this moment needs us. Loud, unrelenting, and informed. And while we do like to build on our previous episodes, and most of these news articles that have been pulled relate to things that we have talked about in the past, it is coming for us quickly, and we need to act. So we're not going to go down quietly. As always, stay safe, stay loud, and let's burn the whole damn fascist playbook to the ground. I'm out.